Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
Yeah,
You know how we like to really get into the weeds on complex topics?
you certainly do.
Well, today, we're plunging into a pretty striking vision of future control. The source material we're looking at, it calls it the Digital Penitentiary.
Hmm,
So, okay, let's unpack this. We're drawing from a document titled The Digital Penitentiary, The Final Game.
right.
And our goal here is really just to pull out the core ideas, the mechanics, and the justifications presented in this document for what it describes as, well, a blueprint for a Borg collective and a perfect prison, quite the language.
It is. And what's fascinating here, really right from the get-go, is the sheer ambition this document lays out. It's
Right.
not talking small changes.
Yeah.
It suggests this huge, almost apocalyptic shift is underway. The source argues we're moving away from what it calls like subtle symbolic control.
Seems like stories, tradition, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Soft power stuff, moving towards an all-encompassing technological system. And it claims this system is meant to completely reshape society. And it frames it all very dramatically, saying it's happening before the great cycle nears its prophesied end and the final boss arrives.
The final boss. Okay, so it's less like slow evolution.
Much less. More like Indeed. And the document, it doesn't really hold back in defining this digital penitentiary. It's described as both new and brutally efficient, like a clinical upgrade.
Efficient in control, presumably.
Precisely. And what's interesting is how it explicitly says they're abandoning the old, subtle methods of control.
The symbolism and deception I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Symbolism, ritual, and historical deception. The source basically calls them outdated. It suggests those older ways, maybe they're not working well enough anymore, too slow, maybe too easy to see through.
Mm-hmm.
So the shift described is away from just shaping thoughts and beliefs towards something, well, much more direct, technologically enforced, unavoidable.
Moving from like mind games to actual infrastructure.
You got it. Infrastructure of existence, as the document seems to imply.
Okay, so if that's the vision, this sort of perfect prison,
Yeah.
how does it actually, take shape physically? This is where it gets really fascinating because the source details what it calls the walls of the digital zoo. It suggests the smart grid, efficient energy, is actually the foundation of their new prison.
So not just about power lines.
Not according to this, no. It suggests this grid takes control from the abstract, the symbolic, and brings it right down into our physical world, our daily lives.
Wow.
Imagine the electricity grid, the network connecting everything, becoming the actual bars of the cage, so to speak.
And if we kind of connect that to the bigger picture they're painting, this smart grid, as the document describes it, it's way more than just clever engineering, isn't it?
Seems so.
It's portrayed as the literal physical framework that makes all the oversight and control possible for everything plugged into it.
Right.
It basically creates the boundaries for what the document calls, metaphorically, the walls of the digital zoo. Without that grid, the other layers, the digital control, the social stuff,
He wouldn't have a platform.
exactly. They wouldn't have a physical stage to operate on. It's the absolute enabler, like wiring up the whole world for this system.
And within that grid, the document points to two key components that really crystallize the vision. First up, smart cities.
Okay.
The source calls these the ultimate evolution of the penitentiary. In these cities, it claims every aspect of a pawn's life, using that term pawn again, from traffic to energy use to public services, is monitored and controlled by a central AI.
A single AI running the show.
Pretty much. And here's a really chilling bit. The document calls this AI an earthly imitation of the Chi system.
Chi system, what does it say that is?
It doesn't actually elaborate much on the Chi system itself,
Yeah.
but using that term implies, maybe some higher, almost cosmic level of algorithmic control, suggesting this city AI is just a copy of something bigger.
That's quite a layer to add. And what's the second component?
Alongside the smart cities, you have smart meters.
Ah, the ones in our houses.
Exactly. The document calls these the individual monitoring device within this zoo, even calls them a leash that connects every home to the central grid.
A leash. Wow. Strong language.
It is. And the really chilling part, as the source presents it, isn't just tracking energy use for billing. It's the idea that these ringmasters,
The controllers.
can track the energy life force consumption of every pawn in real time and to restrict or cut off that energy at will.
So it's not just about monitoring, it's about direct control over your power supply.
That's what the document claims. It frames it not as managing utilities, but as managing human existence itself, like a resource that can be limited or cut off by whoever's in charge.
That's a fundamental shift, turning a basic utility into potentially a direct tool of power, far beyond just tracking usage.
Definitely. So, okay, you've got the walls up the grid, the smart cities. How does this system, according to the source, actually manage the individuals inside the walls?
Right, the day-to-day control.
Exactly. This brings us to what the source calls the digital leash, and it details two main tools here, digital ID and digital currency, or CBDC.
Okay, digital ID first.
Yeah. The document calls this the final dog tag for the inmates. Another really striking image, isn't it?
It certainly paints a picture.
It's described as this single, centralized digital identity, and it will link everything about a person. Health records, it specifically calls out pharma involvement, finances, social interactions, all feeding into what the source just calls the elite's central cloud.
All in one place, tied to you.
Tied to you. And here's the real kicker. The source claims, without it, a pawn will be unable to participate in the game.
Unable to participate. That implies total exclusion, doesn't it?
It seems to. A really powerful claim about just how essential this ID would supposedly be.
Yeah, that phrase, unable to participate in the game, it really highlights the source's whole argument about what this digital leash means for, personal freedom.
How so?
Well, if one single digital ID becomes the only way to access everything, health, money, social life, it completely changes how people interact with society, right?
We could have to.
The document suggests it basically gets rid of any anonymity, any freedom of movement outside the official system. It makes the digital ID not just like an ID card, but the mandatory key to even basic existence.
Making non-compliance mean what?
Yeah.
Just can't function?
Pretty much. A kind of civil death, as the source seems to frame it.
Okay. And the other half of this digital leash, the digital currency, CBDC.
Right, central bank digital currency.
The source presents this as the final evolution of the penny and the pound.
Yeah.
Sounds innocent enough at first.
But there's a catch, I assume.
Big catch, according to this document. It quickly clarifies this is not money. It is a system of programmable control.
Programmable control. That sounds different.
It sounds very different. The document alleges CBDCs would let the ringmasters, as it calls them, dictate what the pawns can buy, where they can buy it, and if their money will even work.
So your money could just be switched off or restricted.
That's the claim. It calls CBDC the ultimate tool of enforcement. So yeah, it's not just about tracking spending, it's about controlling spending, which has, pretty chilling implications for economic freedom.
You really nailed the key difference there, this idea of programmable control, as the source describes it. It suggests money itself changes. From just a way to trade things neutrally to a mechanism for enforcing behavior. It's not just knowing what you bought, it's potentially deciding beforehand what you can buy or where. Or if your money even functions based on rules set by these ringmasters.
Rules we might not even know.
Potentially. The source really emphasizes that this programmability is what makes it such a powerful tool of enforcement, unlike any money we've had before. It allows this incredible level of influence over economic choices.
And therefore over people's lives.
Exactly, over individual lives.
So, okay, we have this whole system described, the digital walls, the digital leashes, but why? What's the justification the source provides for all this control?
Ah, yes, the why.
It points to something it calls the carbon lie. The source claims the climate crisis and things like carbon taxes aren't what they seem. It calls them a new, terrifying ruse.
Ruse, meaning?
Media trick. A manufactured problem, it says. And it draws a direct comparison saying it's just as with global warming.
Wow, okay. That's a pretty bold assertion, reframing a major global concern like that.
It really is. To frame what many see as a genuine crisis, as just a fabrication designed purely for control. It's provocative, to say the least.
It definitely is a provocative claim from the source. It's essentially arguing there's this grand misdirection happening, positioning an environmental crisis as, like, the perfect excuse to bring in this new societal structure.
A Trojan horse?
Kind of, yeah. And looking deeper, the document suggests this narrative creates a perpetual emergency, a never-ending crisis state.
Why is that important?
Because, according to the source, you can use that constant state of emergency to justify almost anything. Extreme levels of control, economic manipulation.
Things you couldn't normally get away with.
Exactly. This manufactured urgency, as the document puts it, constantly creates the need for the very solutions the system offers. It uses fear, this perceived global threat, to push through what the document clearly sees as a radical control agenda.
And the justification never runs out because the emergency is designed to be endless.
That's the idea presented, yes.
And the specific goal of things like carbon taxes, according to this source, is pretty specific and honestly quite bleak.
How so?
They're described as a spell designed to create artificial scarcity and drive up the price of everything.
A spell, like intentionally harmful?
That's the implication. The document claims this isn't some unfortunate side effect, it's done on purpose. To keep the pawns in a state of perpetual economic struggle on their knees, it says.
Making them dependent.
Exactly. Dependent on the very system that is impoverishing them. It paints this picture of deliberate economic hardship, not as just bad policy, but as a core tool for social and political control.
That point really gets to the alleged manipulative core behind a carbon lie, doesn't it? The source is arguing the economic pain, inflation, scarcity isn't accidental.
But designed.
It's a design choice, yeah. The goal, it suggests, is to crush individual financial independence. Make people less self-sufficient, more reliant on the system. It frames the whole environmental story as this powerful social engineering tool.
Used to keep people compliant through money worries, basically.
Through economic pressure, yeah. Rather than, actually protecting the environment according to this particular source.
So when you put all these pieces together, the document says the elite's final game board is revealed.
The complete picture.
Let's recap how the source ties it up. The smart grid creates the prison, right?
The walls.
The digital ID assigns each prisoner a number.
The CAG.
The digital currency controls their every action.
The leash.
And the carbon lie provides the perpetual emergency to justify it all.
The excuse.
All these components, woven together, they form what the document finally calls the social credit system.
It really does pull all those different threads, technology, economics, identity, even the environmental narrative, into one single, frankly, chillingly cohesive vision.
Yep.
It describes this alleged system where everything converges to create this total framework of control. The social credit system, in this document's view, is the ultimate point of the digital penitentiary.
Using every tool available.
Every technological and narrative tool, for maximum societal control. It's presented like a master plan where literally every part of life becomes a potential control lever.
And the source defines this social credit system as a game, where a pawn's access to the basic necessities of life is directly tied to their obedience and their carbon footprint.
Wow. Linking basic survival directly to obedience and this carbon metric.
It's a stark connection, isn't it? And the document's conclusion is just completely unambiguous. It calls it the perfect technologically enforced penitentiary, a world where the zookeepers have a digital leash on every animal, and the only freedom is total compliance. It leaves zero room for doubt about the level of control it's describing.
Yeah, that final synthesis from the source, it paints a picture of truly unprecedented control, a complete systemic wiping out of individual freedom, as they describe it.
A world where everything is designed to enforce compliance.
Through both physical tech, like the grid, and digital tech, like the ID and currency, leaving people with almost no real agency, according to this vision.
Yeah.
The document suggests a future where freedom, as we kind of understand it now, it would be totally redefined, just constrained within the rules of this massive tech-enforced system.
A future where every choice is watched, judged.
And rewarded or punished by the system itself. That's the end point prescribed.
Well, that was quite the deep dive, wasn't it, into a profoundly unsettling vision.
It certainly is.
The source material paints this vivid, if definitely dystopian, picture of a future where tech becomes the ultimate control tool. So thinking about that game metaphor the source uses, if this deep dive is like looking at the board game, what's your next move, knowing the rules laid out by these ringmasters in the digital penitentiary?
That's a heavy question to leave folks with. I mean, the document we've gone through today, it offers a really stark perspective, doesn't it, on what could happen when technology and power merge into one single controlling system.
It makes you think.
It really does. It kind of forces us to consider the nature of information, our digital selves, our money, and to think critically about who actually holds the reins of control in a world becoming ever more technological, at least as this particular blueprint describes it.
Yeah.
It's a perspective that definitely pushes you to question the stories we hear and the structures that are, increasingly shaping all our lives.